What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Zetro's Toxic Vault. And as we move along with the Bay Area scene and that which built it, I'm bringing in all of the pioneers that had something to do with it. This man is no different right here. When you talk about the beginning of Bay Area thrash metal, there's so many bands that you can think of off the top of your head. But this one maybe kind of slipped in a little bit under, but to me and to a lot of people, he was a pioneer in this business very early on. Your band was awesome. The Ghost Next Door and bands like Skin Lab helped him pave his way, which he keeps alive to this day. But we're going to start and talk with Mr. Gary Wendt, and we're going to talk about Sacrilege BC.
Okay.
How you like that, huh?
Oh, that sounds great. Is that
fucking awesome? It's good to have you in.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, brother.
Good to have you. The spider didn't bite you, did he, on the way down?
No, I'm good.
No, I'm good. I'm glad he didn't. He's kind of mellow. I think he knows what's going on here. Anyway, so hey, man, a part of the Bay Area scene that people may not even know that you guys were a huge part of the history. I mean, even when you talk about the bands that didn't even keep it going as well, because you guys really didn't go. The last record was like '88, I believe, right?
I
It was
believe so.
Yeah, it wasn't. So it wasn't that really. You didn't really kind of carry it off, and like some of us, even like Violence, didn't put out their first record until '89.
Sure.
So you were kind of one of the first ones to get it, and so. When did you start? What got you into the Bay Area scene? You grew up in Berkeley, and the band was from Berkeley.
Sure.
And to let everybody know, Berkeley was the hub, don't you think, of thrash
Definitely,
metal or of metal
the
in general?
epicenter. Yeah.
It was because there were clubs in San Francisco, there were clubs in Oakland, there were clubs in the South Bay and San Jose, but Berkeley had Ruthie's. Berkeley had the Keystone. Berkeley had the Square. Berkeley had even the Omni, which was considered Oakland, but
Sure.
2 streets over, you're in Berkeley. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I considered that was kind of the hub. What got you into this? How did you start? Was it, the early sounds of Exodus and Metallica, or was it early stuff before that? In the 70s, what did you listen to?
Well, when I was a kid, I was really big into Kiss, like huge.
A lot of people are, man.
The whole image, but also the music too. I had all the records and all the memorabilia and all that kind
For
of
the
stuff.
time, man, it was heavy for the time.
And I still have a photo of myself like when I was 5 years old with one of those iron-on sparkly Kiss logo T-shirts and stuff. So
I was Gene Simmons in 8th grade for
yeah,
Halloween.
definitely.
I was
definitely
grade,
Gene Simmons a couple of years.
I was Gene Simmons in 8th grade.
My family was big into music. My parents would play music often in the house. And
What type of music did your parents
Steely
listen to?
Dan.
Uh-huh.
My dad went through a little country phase, the Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson.
My dad was a biker, so he did. That's how I got into it. The early FM sounds, and then
Fleetwood Mac,
then into the Waylon and Willie and David Allan Coe and all that
sure.
kind of outlaw country.
So there's music around the house a lot. None of my folks played an instrument. I'm the only musician in the family, really. But I went to this school called the School of the Madeleine, and I can't remember what grade I was in, but the 8th grade boys were playing in a cover rock band. They played in the
Okay, what year is this talking? We're talking. I don't want to date you, but what would
probably like around
timeline.
82 or
This is
something
82.
like that. Yeah.
So
That's when I first started playing
metal
guitar.
There's heavy metal out there. Are you aware of heavy metal at this time? Is that what you're listening to?
So I was really into that age. I was Ozzy.
Because Kiss is 75, 76, 77, 78. They're the biggest band in the world at that time. So if you're 5 years old, that falls right in the pocket of that.
Sure.
Did it stay heavy from there, or at least
it did.
The heavier music?
It did.
The Ted Nugent's,
Ozzy,
Ozzy, AC/DC.
Big into Ozzy, big into AC/DC, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden.
Right.
New
wave of British heavy metal, Saxon,
kind of stuff, for sure.
Diamond Head, Tigers of Pantang.
And with the band that I saw, the 8th grade boys band actually had some people that in it as well. Craig Bearhorse was one of the people in that band.
Love Craig.
I think
he's my man.
Hans Larson was in that band. I can't remember everybody else that was in the band, but anyways, they went up there, played like covers, UFO, Thin Lizzy, and stuff like that. And I was just kind of smitten with the whole vibe, and so I immediately started taking guitar lessons from Joe Satriani and that was 82.
Yeah, he was in the
12
Squares
years old.
at that time.
He was in the Squares.
Nobody
at that time.
even knew who Joe was at that time.
$8 for half an hour lesson.
Amazing.
And a lot of people were taking lessons from
Yeah,
at the
what was
time.
Larry?
Hunold was
and,
taking
yeah,
lessons.
Rick was. Larry Lalonde. Kirk Hammond was actually taking. Alex Skolnick.
Alex, yep.
Yeah, Alex took from Joe.
And Tim Howell, the other guitar player.
That's right. Tim did too as well. That's right.
So that was kind of the guy to go to and stuff. I mean, he wasn't famous then, but everybody knew he was good at what he did. He was a great teacher.
He was the best guitar player in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
and nobody.
So
knew
I started kind of there, and I started playing like at talent shows at school and stuff like that. And then about when I went to high school, I met up with the guys in Sacrilege, and we put the band together. Then
So talk about how you met Streffen, and was it you guys, you actually who had it going, or was there other parts that came up? You know, give us the story on how you put it together.
All right, I met Tim pretty quickly. I was into like a lot of like the new kind of thrash.
And you're
stuff.
how old? And what year is this?
1984.
84. So thrash is like, we don't have an Exodus record yet. We have a Metallica record. Thrash is, we have a Slayer record. Thrash is out there now. You know,
Show No Mercy.
Yes, Thrash is out there now.
That's kind of the first stuff we played together. I started jamming with Moose, our original bass player, and Tim, the guitar player. I met Tim. He was walking down the stairs in front of the main building at Berkeley High, and he was wearing a Jump in the Fire Metallica shirt. And like, I didn't know anybody at that time who liked that band. You know, and nobody had really heard of them except for these new cats, right?
It was still
Merciful
very
Fate, stuff like that.
Very underground.
Yeah.
Still Metallica back then.
Yeah,
people don't realize it now because they're so. I mean, my grandmother could tell you who Metallica is. You know what I mean now, right? But back then it was a different story.
So it was like, whoa, hey, dude, nice shirt. And then this kind of started the whole thing. So I started talking to him and Moose, and we started like jamming like cover songs, Exodus songs, fucking Slayer, Show No Mercy type stuff, Metallica. We started jamming that stuff, and they were putting a band together with some kids over in Richmond area, which was Streffen and Matt, and they had this other guitar player named Gwillem at the time, and they hadn't really started to write and stuff like that, I don't think. At the very first songs were written by Moose, so he was the one who wrote like all the stuff off the first demo and stuff like that. So I got to give credit where it's due on that front. They had like started to put a band together, but they really didn't have all the players in. And Gwillem was like kind of, I don't know what the deal was. If he wasn't good enough or if he was flaky. I don't really know too much about that. But because I was jamming with Moose and Tim over at Tim's house and at school, they approached me and see if I wanted to do it. And of course, I was like, yeah, great. So that's kind of how it started. We practiced.
So kind of this was your first band, really?
Pretty much.
Other than kind of jamming with a couple of guys.
Yeah, at school, at the grade school, junior high kind of thing.
Nothing too.
No, this is the first band I like. This is like
where there was practice and you had a band and
strict rehearsals and let's
now writing originals
put our best
yet?
Foot forward. Oh, from the get go.
From the get go.
Yeah.
And what was that like for you?
It was great.
So were you attributing right away too?
I wrote some on the first record, not a lot. I think as the band progressed, I wrote more and more. But at first, it was Moose who's writing like the bulk of the material. Tim would write a little bit. I would write a little bit. And then the second record, Moose wasn't in the band anymore, so Tim took a lot of the writing.
Now let's talk about the music and the direction of the band, because when I'm listening to it, and especially to listen to Party with God in between, Too Cold to Pray, there's a huge musical difference. And I mean, the first record I would almost call crossover punk. I mean, it sounds very. And I've had Waddy on from the Exploited recently, and we were talking about how thrash metal and hardcore would not be without those guys. And I heard so much Exploited in GBH on that first record. I mean, there is some thrash metal stuff. The Break and Skinned Alive is very Exodus in the middle of that. Very, very.
We were huge. I like the whole band were huge Exodus fans.
But I mean, the speed on the album is just every song is just punk fast, blistering raw, and the vocals. I mean, I have to say, Streffen sounds like Cronus. I mean, he sounds so much like Cronus, and just a thrash metal, and the ferocity, and so recording that record, did you have any writing? Did you write anything on it, or that was
Yeah,
all?
yeah, I wrote.
So you did have some.
Yeah, I wrote a song called "Judge Death" on that.
And I like that song. And you know what's funny is there was a few songs I made noted on. There's some songs that are metal on that album. I mean, more metal than others.
Sure,
and
sure.
that was one of them.
Sure.
And like I said, the Breaking Skin to Life, I definitely heard that. But every song, really, really fast. And then you get to Too Cool to Pray. And man, the guitar toned into really chunky.
Sure.
And there's like dual leads, and there's a lot more intricacies on, and
we got better at what we were doing.
And the song slowed down a little bit, but
Sure.
not. I mean, like slowed down. They got more like. Was it a conscious effort that you went for?
I don't ever
thrash
think that
metal.
it was.
Was it because it seemed like, and correct me if I'm wrong. Like now, all of the guys in what we're all doing together
Sure.
have stapled at what their sound is.
Sure.
We like what this
I
is,
totally
and
understand
we're gonna,
where I still
and
totally
we're
understand where
gonna
you're coming from.
maybe this is this is what the sound of this whole scene is, and we're just we've done this, we've emulated stuff that these guys have done over the past, and
Sure.
do we hold this? Because if you listen to the two records, man, second one's way metal and a lot of different groove on it.
Sure.
Which I love. I love both of the records. First one's totally blistering, and that's what I love it.
Yeah,
I would say, man, you could have went out with the Exploited with that record. Nobody would have known the fucking
Sure.
difference.
And we played with a lot of punk bands. Like
So
for
you
both-
did. So talk
both
about
records.
that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, so I think both records are an extension of what we were kind of listening to and what we were kind of all about at the time. I know that Tim was like really into the Melvins a lot at the time of that record when he was writing. So a lot of it's
there's
slow,
very,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and, chunk-
yeah.
and kind of
very chunky.
monotonous and chunky and stuff like that. I think the first record we were listening to more metal.
Really?
On the first record than we were on the second record. So it's kind of weird how that worked out.
But do you see what I'm saying from both of the records? The first one is very,
they're totally
very
they're
raw.
night and day.
Yes,
we
very
had
production
we
and
had
everything.
no budget for the first
Well,
one.
I understand that too.
We had a
Yeah,
little
I get
bit more
that.
for the second one. We used Mark Sinisak.
Yeah, right.
produced
Yeah, he did our
Exodus,
records. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we just paid a little more attention to detail.
Where
on
did
that
you
one.
record the first record?
The first one, God, I want to say it was called Starlight Studios in
I
Richmond.
remember Starlights. Yes, it probably.
We did that
was.
in a day.
In a day.
Yeah, recorded that record in a day. I think we mixed it in a day or something crazy.
Sure,
like that.
that's what we did back in the day, right, bro? It was kind of high end.
Well, there was no money, right?
There was
It's
never
like-
no. Even for us, it was nothing that we were. Nobody was buying cards or houses, bro. It went right into the album.
Sure.
You know what I mean? We.
But we did
struggled
have a
for
budget
years.
for both.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, it didn't. It didn't come out of our pocket
Who was
straight
the
away.
label at that time, Gary?
Alchemy.
Alchemy.
So that was the label that did both records.
And they've both been re-released on November Fire,
Yeah,
right?
that's Streffen's
Recently.
label.
Streffen's label, which is the singer.
So Alchemy had other bands like Clown Alley, Neurosis' first record was there. Melvins did a record there. I can't remember who else. RKL as well.
RKL, huh?
So it was mainly kind of punk, maybe post-punk with like the Clown Alley stuff. And
Did you tour on for either? Well, let's
we
talk
toured
about
for both. So
You did. And
for
who'd you go out with?
Party with God, we just went out with ourselves for that one. And we did most of the United States. We did one, we just did like kind of the southern states. And then the next one, we kind of went all the way to, I think for Too Cool to Pray, went all the way to like New York and back and stuff. And
Any
we
Europe stuff, any South America?
We paid our own way to go to England. So we were in England for a few weeks. And that we toured with a band called Slammer. They were from Bradford, West Yorkshire.
I think I remember.
Cool guys.
I know where Bradford is. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Slammer. I remember that band.
Yeah.
Music for Nations band.
I don't know.
I kind
don't
of
know whatever happened to
I
those
remember
guys.
that name. Slammer.
So we did 2 tours of the States, 2 or 3 tours in vans. First tour we did it in one van. Second tour we did it in 2 vans. We brought a mechanic with us because we learned our lesson. So this guy Dave, so he came with us for the whole tour, and we ended up one of the vans caught fire in Toronto.
Of course it did.
And Matt fucking panicked, and he fucking drove. Where does he go? He drives into the parking lot of a gas station.
Oh my.
So like the guys who run in the gas station are running out with fire extinguishers. No. And we're like, Matt, what the fuck are you doing? It's a gas station.
Oh my!
So yeah, so
that could have been the end of Sacrilege BC.
Yeah, it could have been. But that van was gone, so we had to rent a Ryder truck from there on out. But
amazing. That was... So many people have those stories from those things. I mean, we had an Exodus. I'll tell this story sometime. Sure. Had a bus burned down to whereas we were on the bus, and the bus driver came up while we were sleeping and said, "Everybody off the bus! The bus is burning." And we got off. Nobody got their luggage, and the bus burned. Down to the ground.
Wow.
So we got out with our lives, and then we had.
Where did that happen?
That happened in Europe. It happened in Italy. Wow. It happened in Italy. So I'll tell that story sometime. I'll give you the full, just because I tell stories from time to time. So there was 2 years in between both records. Party with God came out in '86, and then Too Cool to Party came out in '88, and you did some touring after that.
Yeah.
What happened after that?
So we did, I think by that time we had moved into a different rehearsal, because for the years and years we rehearsed, and Matt Fillmore, our drummer, he had a practice room in his house up in El Cerrito Hills. So I think by that time we had moved somewhere down in Oakland, and we were rehearsing. We actually did another demo. I think they were originally recorded I want to say 6 songs. I think 4 made it to the actual demo that we passed out and stuff. So there's 2 lost songs. I don't know.
So you were gonna you had fulfilled your contract with Alchemy.
Sure, Alchemy, I think,
or folded or
I
whatever.
Think Alchemy kind of went down.
There was a million of those independent labels coming up. Hey, I got a label. Hey, I got a label. Happened to Exodus, and then you were kind of shopping, looking around. Did you get any interest?
I don't even know if we. It was around the time we did we call it the Maggots demo. Around that time, I started taking more of an interest in helping with show booking and songwriting and stuff like that. So I was writing more and more stuff. I wrote the song Maggots and stuff, by the way, which was extremely influenced by the Fabulous Disaster record, because I was listening to that a lot. And so you could listen to the riffs in that, and they're way more they're different. They're way more metal and stuff like
that.
Great record. And, there's a lot of harmonies on that one, and that was influenced by you guys as well and stuff. So,
the H Team, boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a record that I was listening to a lot at the time. So if you listen to that song, you can hear you could definitely make some comparisons. But it seemed like especially with Streffen, he did, no offense to him, but he just seemed to kind of be over it. And I think that it was
which happens, Gary.
Yeah.
People, your interests move on. People think because you get to do this, on the level that you're doing at it, that man, you need to keep doing it forever, and people lose interest.
Sure.
I've never lost interest. I love doing this. I love going on stage. I love playing. I love banging my head.
Sure.
I'll do it till I die. But I understand that, bro. I get it.
Yeah, and it's not just he's not to blame. I think that there was just kind of the fire was kind of burning out and stuff. I think everybody was on, except for
And what
Tim,
year are we
I think,
talking
was on
about
drugs
around
and
right
shit.
now? Sure, we all. 89.
Yeah, maybe
89,
something
90?
like that. Yeah, I would say that sounds about right. 89, 90. And my helping things along is just a little too late. Too little, too late kind of thing. And I was just really getting hyped on the whole thing and getting more involved. I think at that time, there were times in the band where I was sober and not using and everything, and that's when I would start focusing more on getting to be a better player, getting to be a better songwriter, and just kind of delving more into the business end and helping out. And so I was getting kind of more hyped on all of it and stuff, but I don't think everybody was. So we just disbanded, no harm, no foul. There was no big blow-ups or anything like that.
Ever a reunion? Has there been a reunion show or anything close to it?
When Toby Stanford died, we were going to
Toby Rage.
Yeah, we were going to do we were gonna play 3 songs at a memorial concert to benefit his family. And we had I'm not gonna name names here and stuff like that, but we had a lineup. We had agreed to do the songs. We even picked the songs that we were going to do. And we even had a venue. And the person who was going to put the show on just started getting well, let's put these guys on. And these guys trying to get bigger and bands that
turn it into something it didn't need to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it never would have
it would have taken away from what it was supposed to be in the first place.
And so after they called it off to try to reschedule and stuff, I was like, it's never going to happen now. And it didn't ever happen. Just because, and it would have too, if that person would have stuck with the lineup and the venue and the date, it would have happened. I know it would have happened because Streffen was into it. And he's one of the main holdouts for us continuing or redoing, reliving that doing like a reunion show or whatever. So that it just totally fell apart, and we've never really talked about it since.
Wow, that's a trip. So then you took some time off, or you didn't start Skin Lab right away, did you?
No, I was in a band called Release for...
I remember that, but not too long, right?
4 or 5 years, I think we did it. I did it from I think the age of 20 to like 25, 26 or something. We were on Century Media. We did one record with them. I met those guys through, I think I found them in an ad like on Bam Magazine or something. They had the classifieds or something. And I kind of wanted to go. By that time, I was listening to a lot of like alternative, what they used to call modern rock music and stuff, like The Cure and stuff.
What year are we talking right now? 90, 91?
90 or something, 91. I was living with Rob Flynn and Phil Rydell over at the Montoya Garden Apartments in San Pablo.
Wow.
And him and Rob and Gina had just broken up, so I had she moved out and I moved in. And I lived in the living room, and I had like this sheet partitioning the room from everything else. And we all lived there, and it was great. Tons of crazy shenanigans. None of us worked. None of us. Some of us dealt drugs. Some of us had money from
I'm going to let you say that,
endeavors. Not me. And these people say it all the time, so I'm not going to name names, but everybody knows these stories anyways. Nobody, like I was saying, nobody had jobs. So we all kind of had enough money to get us going and stuff. We're all starting new bands. Rob was kind of finishing up his tenure with Violence and kind of wanted to do his own things. He started Machine Head with Logan and Adam, who both lived at the same apartment complex as well. So we would spend all our time partying, fucking 24/7. I mean, I got stories like crazy. I'll mention one.
I remember those days. Yeah, go ahead. You can tell one.
Well, for example, so I guess Evan Seinfeld from Biohazard they were like kind of coming up, and he was in the process of negotiating a contract with Warner or something like that. So they're from the East Coast, from New York. So he came out here to deal with his business, but he stayed with us. So he like lived with us for a week or something. And then I guess after that they went on. So the reason I'm saying that is because we had this relationship with that band because so next time they came out, they were on tour with Waddy and the Exploited and stuff, and they played at the not the Berkeley Square, the Stone.
Keystone.
The Keystone in San Francisco on Broadway.
Oh, the Stone, on Broadway.
So they played this show, and the next night they were going to do the Palladium in Hollywood. So we were all fucking drunk and gacked up and shit. And
I love it. I love it.
We all piled into this beater car. I mean, it's total cop magnet in the middle of the fucking night, and drove from the Bay Area to L.A. and to go see them play at the Palladium, and so we did that, and to kill time, we went across the street to this bar called the People Tree, right? And it was right across from the Palladium. We're all sitting there. We're trying to kill time. So I'm sitting in this there's a U-shaped booth, and there's a bunch of us there. Rob and Adam and Phil and his brothers, Pete and Paul, and this guy Mark. And I think that might have been that. And so they're sitting at this U-shaped booth. I'm at the head table where I'm all looking at them. We're talking. We were befriending the waitress and stuff. She's like totally cool. We're just sitting there drinking, trying to like get feel normal again. So we're sitting there talking, and who walks into the bar but Stevie Wonder, right? So Stevie Wonder walks in the bar. He's not a drinker, but it's apparently we talked to the bar chick, and she said he comes in here all the time because this is kind of his neck of the woods, and he likes the people, and he likes to talk, and it's like kind of his cheers, you know. So I'm like, buy him anything he wants, you know. Drinks on us and stuff. And apparently he drank cranberry and water, and she's like, oh, he just drinks cranberry and water. So I'm like, whatever he wants. So we're sitting there talking, and blah blah blah. All of a sudden, everybody at the table, like they look up and their jaws drop. I mean, literally, like the whole table. I'm like, what? And I turn around, and Stevie Wonder is like standing right behind me and shit. And he came over to thank us for the drinks and
wow,
and sat there and chopped it up with us for about 10 minutes or so. Super
that is
cool,
amazing.
dude. Yeah, so that was one of the little adventures.
One of the little cool party
That's
stories.
That's a legend right there, man.
That is a legend right there. How great!
I mean, to see all these metalheads, it was like dumbfounded, right?
That's
like in awe of the guy.
That's amazing. Well, you know what? You got to respect musicians as they are. You know, it's maybe not what we play or what we listen to, but every one of us respect,
Sure.
Freddie Mercury and Elton John and everybody they're making
Sure.
movies about. Those were the people that we were brought up on. You remember?
Yeah, yeah.
That there wasn't
Yeah, my
heavy
parents
metal
loved that,
music
man.
in the 70s. That was the stuff. I'm 55, so in 1975, I'm 11 years old. I remember when the Rocket Man was the biggest thing in the world. You know
Sure,
what I mean?
I remember all those songs.
So
too,
it's great to pay respect to our heroes like
Sure.
that.
Sure.
So then
So, anyways,
now you're partying. You're living with Rob. You're living in an apartment building that Logan's at.
Yep.
All these guys are together. What's going through your head musically?
So I was at the time I was listening to a lot of like what they called back in the day modern rock music and stuff. So I wanted to kind of go and play some stuff kind of like that, like the Cure and the Smiths and the Sundays and stuff like that. I really liked the guitar playing and I really liked the songwriting, and it was way more layered and to me just more interesting for what I wanted to do. So I answered this ad, and I went and met these guys, and one of them was named Aaron, and he used to be in Anvil Chorus back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And then they had just left a band that they were in called Maximilian's Motorcycle Club.
I don't remember.
And
that.
they wanted to start doing something kind of a little more like, I don't know, alternative rock, but like with an edge kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So we first started off kind of like that, but then we just got heavy. We just got completely heavy. We just fucking like, but it wasn't like a purposeful thing, It was just like we just kind of started writing.
Maybe
that
your
way.
roots just carried over,
Yeah,
man. Your upbringing,
Sure.
that influence when you were young just takes over, man.
That's what happened, and we got good, and we signed with Century Media, but we made the mistake of like Century Media wasn't really well known in the States yet. They had just started to sign like bands that were stateside.
Uh-huh.
And so we were like kind of leery or weary of like, well, is this like a wise business decision? So we only signed with them for one record and stuff, which in hindsight I think was dumb, because after that came out, there was no tour support, there was no tours, there was nothing.
Well, right. If they don't have anything to build on,
Yeah, there's no vested interest.
The one
for
record
them.
just doesn't make any sense.
If we would have done like 6 records, like
Three,
which is standard,
three.
we would have done much more.
Yeah, because they've got some
Tour,
vested
we've
interest.
done-
After that, after this record, why would I build these guys up so they can go to another record label? That makes all the sense in the world.
So that was a bad decision on our part, which I argued against. And I thought we were playing too many local shows, and I just think that there was. I started losing interest in that band, and there was a lot of drugs going on in that band as well. I'd stopped showing up to rehearsal on time and stuff. So they fired me like right there, and then as soon as they fired me, the drummer quit. He's like, because he saw the writing was on the wall anyway.
And what year are we talking now, Gary?
That was like 96.
96.
And then right after, right after that, Skin Lab was looking. Rob was helping them out, and they were about to do a deal and a tour and stuff. And Rob knew I was not doing release anymore, so he was hugely integral in me joining the band. I didn't even want to. I didn't want to join a band that was already together. I didn't want to I wanted to kind of do my own thing, and I didn't want to
And what was the lineup at Skin Lab at that time?
Paul Hopkins, Steve Esquivel, and Mike Roberts. And then I can't remember which guitar player they had at the time. I'll probably get in trouble for this. Brian, I think is his name. Sorry, it's.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I think I remember that guy.
But I'm not sure. But anyway,
that's okay. The way I tell everybody on the vault, just tell the story to best of your knowledge. We partied so hard back in the day and did so much shit to even get this much of a story out. You know what I mean? I mean, I have to commend you on. Come on.
That's the core of the band was those three guys, and they were having problems with their guitar player at the time, and so I was like, I don't know, and he's like, Rob's like, come on, man, they're about to get signed, and we're gonna take them out on tour, man. Come on, you got to do it. So I met with them and I played a couple songs, and they're like, they welcomed me in. But then the guy who I was replacing tried to like rekindle a relationship, and it just was too fractured by the time. So like they said to me, thanks but no thanks. And then like that same week, they're like, we actually need your services. So I did the first record, Bound, Gagged, and Blindfolded with them. I had no part in the writing. All the songs were written already.
You played on the record, though.
But I played on the record. Andy Sneap engineered that one, produced that one. And
the man.
We went and did Europe we were out there for 3 months. And it was great.
That's a long time.
We did 3 weeks with Machine Head, Cold Chamber, Napalm Death, which ended at Dynamo. We did Dynamo.
That was amazing.
And then after
festival.
that, we did, I think we did Exodus next. And it was with Bay.
That was with Bailoff when they got back for another lesson in violence. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we did with them for a few weeks as well, maybe a month. And then we did another tour with Dave Lombardo's band, Grip Inc.
Grip, I know, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we did that. And on the Grip Inc. tour, I got really drunk in England somewhere and pissed Steve off, and he kicked me out of the band right there on tour. So I ended up hooking up with some girl and fucking staying with these girls in England for, I guess they had 2 more shows left on the tour in France. And Steve's like, well, you can do them if you want. And I tried to apologize to him. You know, I knew I was in the wrong. I was talking shit and everything. But I was kind of, I don't know.
That's what happens when you drink and you get drunk. And sometimes... But that's what an apology's for.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
we're human. We say shit sometimes.
I personally don't think what I did was inexcusable or unforgivable, but I don't think he really wanted me in the band back then in the first place. I know Mike was really rallying for me and stuff. Me and Steve had some history, I think, with some ex-lady friends, and maybe that kind of...
maybe there was a bit...
Maybe he just didn't like my personality at the time. We're good now, so it's all good. So anyway, so I stuck out there for, I stayed with the girls for a couple days, but then they had to go back to work, so they had to get rid of me. So I took a train back to Amsterdam to the airport, and I think I stayed in the airport, like lived in the airport for like 3 days or something.
In Schiphol?
Like that. Just sat there and fucking,
hot.
No money. Like no money, literally no money. So I couldn't really do anything.
Well, at least you used the bathroom.
Sleep and use the bathroom and read people's leftover newspapers and magazines.
Amazing.
And there's no cell phones back then.
No, there wasn't.